Hello mathematicians and welcome back to inverse functions. We are going to be looking at the equations now, and this should be the last section and also probably the last page on your packet. So for the steps, we're going to flip the variables x and y. We've been doing a lot of flipping, huh? And then the second step is we're then going to solve for y. So we get to use some algebra. Yay! So, without further ado, let's start. So, step 1, we're going to flip y and x. So, instead of this y, I'm going to write x. And instead of this x, I'm going to write y. So, as you can see, I had y equals 2x. I flipped them. So, now it's x equals 2y. And that is it for my first step. My second step is I have to solve for y now. Usually when we look at functions and equations, it's always y equals. This is a problem because it's x equals. So let's fix that. So I'm just going to rewrite it over here. X equals 2y. And I want to think about relationships, and I want to identify the inverse operations I have to do to get y by itself. So right here, I have this pesky 2 right here. That's not leaving my poor y by itself. So I want to consider, what's the relationship between 2 and y here? Are they adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing? Now it might be a little tricky to see, but in math we have to remember that when we have a number and a variable stuck together like this, they're actually multiplying. We're just lazy and we don't put the multiplication symbol. So if you see 2x, 3y, 5z, they're multiplying. It's just that we don't know the answer and we don't want to put that little multiplication symbol. So we just stick them together. So if I want to get rid of this 2, I have to do the opposite of its relationship. Since it is multiplying, I have to do the opposite and divide by 2. Because the opposite of multiplying is dividing. But what I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other side of the equal sign. What might also help you is to draw like a little chart right here, in case it gets a little too complicated. So now let's go ahead and simplify. I do not know what x is, so I do not know what x divided by 2 is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring that whole thing down. X could be any number. It could be 100, it could be 2, it could be 1. I don't know what it is. I'm not taking any chances, so I'm just going to bring that whole thing down. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. And then right here I have 2 divided by 2. Now if we remember, 2 divided by 2 is just a giant 1. So we can go ahead and cross them out. And then we get y left over. Is y by itself? Yes. So are we done? Yes. And that is my answer. So my inverse function is x divided by 2 equals y. Okay, let's move on to example 2. So always do the first step. Step 1 is to flip x and y. So everywhere I see a y, I'm going to put x. Everywhere I see an x, I'm going to put y. So instead of y equals, I'm going to put x equals. Instead of x minus 5, I'm going to put y minus 5. And don't forget the divided by 6. So they should look almost exactly the same, except that the x's and the y's kind of look a little funky. So that's step 1. So now I'm going to continue on to step 2. So I'm going to just rewrite my work because it helps me to stay neat. So for this problem, it's a little bit more complex because as I can see, I have a subtraction sign and I have a dividing sign right here. So what I want you to do is to recall GEMDAS. You might know it as PEMDAS. I know it as GEMDAS. So this stands for grouping, exponents, multiplying, dividing, addition, and subtraction. So you may not see it, but this 6 is actually grouping this y minus 5, right? It like kind of has them contained. So I have to follow my order of operations or my GEMDAS and get rid of the 6 first. So again, to get rid of it, I have to see what the relationship is. What's 6 doing with y? Is it adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying? Well, we see this little fraction symbol, which means division, right? So I have to think, what's the opposite of dividing? If you said multiplying, then you are correct. So what I'm going to do is oh, hold up. Let me set up my chart, right? Because my chart helps me stay organized. So if I'm dividing by 6, to get rid of 6, I have to multiply by 6. But now my equation's unbalanced. What I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other side. So if I don't know what x is, do I know what 6 times x is? No, I don't know, right? So I'm just going to bring that whole thing down. Now, remember how we were talking about that in math, when we multiply, sometimes we don't put the multiplication symbol? This is when we do that. We don't put 6 times x, we just put 6x. And we know that we are multiplying 6 and x. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. And so now right here I have 6 divided by 6. You may not see it, but it's a little sideways. So I have 6 divided by 6, which is 1. So they're going to cross out. What I get left over is y minus 5. Is y by itself? No. Then are we done? No. The last thing that I have that's annoying me is this minus 5 right here. It's being annoying. I almost have y but isolated. So again, I have to identify what is 5 doing with y. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Well, we see a subtraction symbol right here, right? So this tells us that we're subtracting. So to get rid of 5, I have to do the opposite. The opposite of subtracting is adding. But now I'm unbalanced. Remember, what I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other side of the equation. So right here, I cannot combine 6x and 5 because they are not like terms, right? X can be any number, and I don't want to take risks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that whole sucker down. X plus 5. If you don't know how to simplify it, just bring the whole thing down. Better safe than sorry, I say. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. I'm going to bring down my y. And right here I have negative 5 plus 5. Or you could say it, you could read it backwards. What's 5 minus 5? 0. You're totally right. So this crosses out. So is my y by itself? Yes. Am I done? Yes. So my inverse function is 6x plus 5. So go ahead and give the rest a try. And good luck.